All right, it finally happened. Paul George signed a 4-year maximum contract extension with the Philadelphia 76ers and is leaving the Los Angeles Clippers after spending the last 5 seasons in Los Angeles. After the blockbuster trade that went down in the 2019 offseason, he joined up with Kawhi Leonard in LA, and they only made it to one conference finals together. And honestly, for what they gave up, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a war chest of draft picks, one turned into Jalen Williams, a lot are going to be in the future. This has a chance to be one of the worst trades of all time. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I'm going to be reacting to pretty much the Paul George signing, break it down for both sides, what the Clippers could do now, what their future looks like, and obviously for the 76ers, been making moves. We've also had some other big moves around the league as well that we'll get into. So basically, we're just going to start things off for the Philadelphia 76ers. They actually signed Andre Drummond. That was one of the bigger signings to start off free agency in the first hour. It was about 2 years, $10 million. As someone that has a lot of addendum bonus stock, that hurt a little bit, but you know what? They're going to get a good backup big man. They probably liked him when he was there in 2022, but they had to include him in the James Harden-Ben Simmons trade when that deal went down. They also brought back Kelly Oubre on a nice deal too, using their mid-level exception. I thought Kelly Oubre was a really underrated player for them in the playoffs, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And then they also gave Tyrese Maxey his 5-year rookie max extension. So those were pretty much all kind of expected. They were going to go out and get a big man. They were going to try to bring back Kelly Oubre, and they were going to bring back Tyrese Maxey. And now, yeah, they have Paul George. So pretty much when the Magic signed KCP, that kind of rolled them out of the Paul George sweepstakes. They probably got a hint that, yeah, he'd rather go to Philly if he's actually going to lead the Clippers. And then the Clippers, weirdly enough, came out with like a statement saying, yeah, Paul George is leaving us. That was kind of like something I've never seen before, saying that he's leaving them in free agency. And that pretty much left one team left remaining, the Philadelphia 76ers, and they gave him a monster deal. 4 years, $211 million for Paul George. That's a lot of money. I was always adamant that the 76ers should pretty much get a bunch of role players and a bunch of complementary pieces around Maxey and Embiid. They didn't do that. They went out and they get the big name Paul George. And obviously in a weaker Eastern Conference, that is appealing. But Paul George is 34 years old. He will be 38 years old when this contract is over. And you're going to be paying him roughly $49 million next year. Oh, man. And then it's $51 million in 26, $54 million in 27, $56 million in 2028 in his age 38 season. That has a chance to be one of the worst contracts in the league at the time. But for the next 2 years, in my opinion, you could still get borderline all-star production out of Paul George. And now that he's going to be a number 3 option, when he's always been the number 2 and sometimes the number 1 with the Clippers, he may not be an all-star in Philadelphia. Like, that just may not happen, but that is fine. And you may look at this, if you're a Sixers fan, that he is just getting paid a little bit more than Tobias Harris was, and it is a night and day difference. And I do agree. If you do look at it like that, this is a massive upgrade over the Tobias Harris spot. I always just thought the Sixers could have used a little bit more continuity. Now, it is going to be nice. Kelly Oubre is going to be there for 3 straight years. Andre Drummond's been there before. They're going to have Jared McCain for a couple years. Going to have a Dembona. Obviously, Maxey and Embiid. And I feel like for the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of roster turnover, and I think that does affect your chemistry in the playoffs. That does affect some of these guys who may just kind of want to get their shots because they're fighting for a new contract on a 1-year deal. And I don't know if guys are crashing the boards. They're diving for loose balls. And I think, like, you come in and go with, like, your Robert Covingtons and your Nick Batums and your Kyle Lowrys. And obviously, I thought maybe Kelly Oubre could have got some money somewhere else, and D'Anthony Melton to the world and Buddy Hield to the world. Like, there's a lot of guys that won't be back from last year's team, and that could affect them in the playoffs. Who knows? Like, there may be some chemistry things with Paul George, Maxey, and Embiid that they got to wrinkle out throughout the regular season. But I do think that this elevates the Sixers into a tier that they would have been potentially without Paul George. If they added like KCP, Isaiah Hartenstein, Najee Marshall, and like Kelly Oubre back, I would have still liked this team, I think, equally amount or the same amount. But I think getting Paul George makes you, I think, right there in the first tier. Like, Boston's definitely still number 1. I think New York on paper is probably still number 2, and then I think it's who you prefer between Milwaukee and Philadelphia for 3 and 4, and then you got like Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana in that tier below. Just on paper, I know Indiana was in the conference finals, but on paper the Knicks are better as a fully healthy squad. So yeah, this is huge for the Sixers. Obviously, they wanted to go out and they wanted to get a big name. Paul George coming back to the Eastern Conference for the first time since 2017 when he was moved from the Pacers to the Thunder, and now this will be the 4th team in his career, probably the final team he's going to be on. And And I think, like I said, it's going to be, I think, a good contract for them in the first couple years. There's a chance the last two, this could be kind of brutal if his defensive ability really takes a decline and his shot making isn't what it used to be. I thought Paul George was a little bit inconsistent down the stretch last year for someone that wants to be considered a top 20 player in the league, especially in the playoffs as well. We'll see if he'll stay healthy. We'll see if there's consistency things. And him being a third option obviously should be fine. And that could make his volume, like, obviously diminish, but that could bring up the efficiency. So let me know, obviously, in the comments what you guys think about Paul George to the Sixers. And then for the Clippers side of things, I thought, like, in my free agency predictions, I did predict Paul George to the 76ers, and I thought somehow they were going to end up with DeMar DeRozan. So they re-signed James Harden, 2 years, around $70 million. It's basically a one-year deal because it has a player option. So they brought back Harden. You obviously have Kawhi, who you never know if he's going to stay healthy or not. You have Zubac, you have Norman Powell, you have Terrence Mann, Kobe Brown. They also signed Kevin Porter Jr. I'm not going to get into that too much, but obviously for a team like the Clippers who don't own any of their draft picks outright till 2030, you know who owns them? The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Philadelphia 76ers. That is also what's so big for Philadelphia, as they just took the Clippers' second best player and they own their draft picks in 2026 and 2028 in a swap and an outright, or it's 27 and 28. So that is massive for Philadelphia for sure. But they go out, I mean, the Clippers are desperate, right? Like, they're a hard cap team with no draft capital, with an aging star that struggles to stay healthy. Yeah, they're going to go out and get guys like Kevin Porter Jr. I don't think that they're a bad organization morale-wise, but these are the type of moves they have to make. They get KPJ, they lose Derrick Jones, or no, they pick up Derrick Jones Jr., excuse me, using their mid-level exception. I thought they were going to use that mid-level exception on like a DeMar DeRozan, and I'm like, you know what? There's a good argument to be made that DeMar DeRozan is better than Paul George. So then I was like, all right, well, Derrick Jones Jr. is still pretty good. He's athletic, he can catch alley-oops, and he could actually be a nice rim runner with James Harden out there, who's obviously a great alley-oop thrower. So the Clippers, though, on paper, in a Western Conference team, they're not better than Denver. They're not better, even though they lost KCP. They're not better than OKC, not better than Dallas, who was just in the finals, and may add Klay Thompson, we'll see. They're not better than Minnesota. In my opinion, they're not better than Memphis. I don't think they're better than the Lakers now losing Paul George. They're probably right there with the Suns. I think the Kings could be better. I think the Pelicans could be better depending on what they do. The Rockets should be better. There's a realistic scenario where if Kawhi Leonard misses a little bit of time next year, this Clippers team goes 39 and 43. They go 37 and 46, and they just miss out on the playoffs entirely. So the Thunder got to be pretty happy about this too, because they end up getting Paul George off the Clippers, and they should be a little bit worse to make their draft picks a little bit better. And yeah, I'm a little nervous for the Clippers' future. I am. I don't know, man. If there was, like, they lost Paul George for nothing. They lost him for nothing. I can't believe they couldn't get a sign and trade done. I really can't. Miami didn't want to get involved. I think Golden State wanted to. If they really threw out Jonathan Kuminga, Wiggins, Chris Paul, and you said no, and at first you said no to that, and Moses Moody, are you outright insane? LA? Oh my God, you had an out in all this and they chose not to get it. I don't know, man. I just think I'm a little nervous for the Clippers in their future right now. I don't think they finish better than the 6th seed in the Western Conference. I think if you're the 6th seed, Kawhi Leonard must be healthy the whole season, Harden and healthy the whole season. And they really fill in nice veteran minimums around them. But yeah, I think I'm not optimistic about the Clippers' future, and I think it can get real bad real quick if they don't make some crazy type of move within the next calendar year. Also, a couple other signings that I do want to mention. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope gets 3 years, $66 million from the Orlando Magic, so roughly $22 million a year. This is a really good signing for them. He has a player option on the last year, so it's realistically a 2-year deal, and he's somebody that could step in right away, be a good 3-and-D complementary piece to Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Now, they needed shooting, and KCP is a good shooter. He's not like the best shooter in the league, right? I thought, was this a move that they needed? They could have also used somebody else that could facilitate as well, because I don't know if that's going to be Anthony Black. Suggs is better as a 2. So I do wonder if that was the right move to spend all your money on, because in the playoffs, the thing that struggled with them, they didn't really have a secondary shot creator. Franz Wagner wasn't there, and maybe they're expecting Franz to take that jump. Paolo Banchero is somebody you could legitimately build around at 22 years old. This guy is a stud, and I think could bring the Orlando Magic to the conference finals next year. And KCP was an underrated defender. He was an all-defensive second team, like honorable mention, and he's someone that can lock in out there. Now, like, if there's a lineup with Suggs at the 1, KCP at the 2, Franz, Paolo, and Wendell Carter, I still wonder, yeah, same issue as last year. Is Franz Wagner going to step up? Could Jalen Suggs improve offensively? Could Wendell Carter Jr. take a step offensively? I'm not really sure, but there's some fun lineups out there if you just replace Wendell Carter Jr. with Jonathan Isaac, and you may not score on that team. That would be a really fun defensive lineup for sure. But like I said, there's still going to be their offensive limitations. I don't know if I would have spent $22 million a year on KCP, but Orlando was just a game 7 away from making it to round 2 with this young team, and they just added one of the better 3-and-D role players that you could possibly get in this league. So you know what? It's going to be a net positive for them. I still think they could look to add another guard. Like if they got Tyus Jones, I'd be cool with that. And then I think we're really cooking right there. So we'll see what they end up doing. Maybe they make a trade. I know they've been rumored in Isaiah Hartenstein. It's 9 in the morning right now. He has yet to sign. So we'll see where he ends up. Hopefully it's the Knicks still. Oh, okay. I got a couple Thunder notifications. And they're using their cap on Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe. Now I wonder if they can still afford Isaiah Hartenstein because they brought those guys back, those role players back. And then obviously since the Golden State Warriors weren't able to work out a trade with Paul George, they had no reason to pay Chris Paul $30 million. So they let him go into free agency. They didn't fully guarantee his contract, and I predicted this right as well. He signs a 1-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. Bam, got that right. And man, him throwing the lobs to Wemby, him working the pick and roll to Wemby is going to be perfect. I think you can get such a good half season out of it, and if it really goes well and Chris Paul wants to maybe contend for a playoff team, you could work out a buyout. I mean, sure, or you can get traded. It's $11 million a year, and you can do right by Chris Paul, who can give Wemby a really good half year of development of being by far the best point guard he has played with, the best facilitator. I still think they can go for Tyus Jones as well, but I think Chris Paul, who orchestrates that offense, could run the pick and roll for Wemby, can know when to get him into his spots and get him the right get him the ball at the right times, and we'll force feed him. It's going to be great. Chris Paul is actually going to average like 9 assists as a guy that's almost 40 years old. So that is going to be incredible to watch next year for sure. And yeah, that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. That was pretty much just my initial reaction about the Paul George signing. Let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comments. I will have actually a Zach Edey Memphis Grizzlies rebuild out today because I'm away right now. And then I should have a new look 76ers rebuild with Paul George out on Tuesday. So make sure you're subscribed for that, and I'll catch you all there. Peace.